Good evening. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everyone. This is the February 27th meeting of the Town of Canandaigua Planning Board. See some new faces here tonight, so let's introduce the folks up front and we'll get to know who you are later in the meeting. Our secretary is Corrine Hatch. Our remote facilities coordinator is Kim Burkert. Active tonight is our alternate board member, but active to participate in the discussion is Tim Schneider, Scott Neal, board member, Amanda Van Laken, board member. I'm Chuck Euler, chairperson. Kristen Smith is our zoning officer. Lance Brabant, representing our engineering firm, MRB. Chris Nadler is our attorney. And remotely, we have also participating in the meeting, Bob LaCourse, our vice chairman. How are you tonight, Bob?
Great, thanks. Great to be here.
Okay, thanks for joining us.
Yep.
If we should have an emergency, folks, please know where the exits are. If the lights go out, run for cover and don't step on me on the way out. Okay, we are going to go through the agenda as published. When we come to a part of the agenda that you're participating in, we're going to ask for a presentation from the applicant. The applicant would come to the podium, give us your name and address, present your plan, your application. Upon your presentation, the board will then ask you questions and deliberate on the application. I will also go out to the public, see if anybody in the public has any comments or questions regarding the application, which would be directed to the board. And then the board would reconvene and hopefully make a decision on the application this evening. So that's how we're going to proceed. The first item on the agenda involves activity is the privilege of the floor. That's for anyone who would like to address the board regarding anything that is not on the agenda. Is there anyone here, there, anywhere that would like to address the board? If not, we have a couple of we have a continued public hearing tonight and a new public hearing. The new public hearing was advertised in the Daily Messenger on February 20th. So it's had the proper legal notice and we are able to proceed this evening. Okay, first item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for Logan Rockcastle representing a property at 4765 Scenic Point Road. And this is a subdivision, and I stress subdivision only, of a parcel into 3 lots. This continued from last meeting. And with that, I will reopen the hearing. And how are you this evening?
I'm good. I'm Logan Rockcastle, Marks Engineering. As you stated, we've updated our application to be only a subdivision for single family residential. We have rescinded our special use permit for a campground. So I'd like to not have that part of the discussion tonight and focus on the single family residential of a minor subdivision of 3 lots.
To reemphasize that, you have withdrawn your site plan and special use permit.
Yes.
Regarding the development of the site should it be subdivided.
Yes. Based on last meeting, there's a couple things that you requested us to submit and to update to reflect a 3-lot subdivision. With conversations with Tim last meeting, he requested a site distance exhibit and report. It kind of goes through the different site distances for different points on the site, which include the proposed private drive, the 2 existing driveways on the site, and then the 3rd one, which is the ag access to the site. I'm not sure if you had a chance to look over those, or if you have any questions based on the report or the subplat that we've submitted.
Other than, I guess your conclusion is our conclusion that there's no way you can physically meet the standards
Yeah, the
of
national standards that,
of the 500 feet.
right,
And the best you could do by having that northern driveway up where you currently show it is 3 something?
320.
Okay. And I think your report also reflected that if certain improvements were done in terms of landscaping and trimming and
Right, regrading,
pruning and regrading, that could be increased
yeah, so
to what?
let me restate that the existing is 273, and if we modify the site, it increases to 320.
Okay, I remember the 300. Okay,
So we're making our best effort to pick the spot that has the best site distance on the site, with allowing the best access without having to do a whole bunch of work to the site.
Tim, I know you had concerns and
Yeah,
After reading the report?
I have plenty of experience in the area of practice, but I'm still new to this board.
Sure.
So I guess the questions that I have more are for the board. First of all, I guess my question is the AASHTO standards actually the code requirement for new intersections and driveways?
No,
No, it's not.
the code. Well, there are two answers. To it. Is that addressed in our site design criteria?
No.
Okay. So the
AASHTO is the recommended standard that we follow
you follow in your review,
as part of this process.
but not as town code or not in our, so in chapter 174. Which regulates subdivision of land in the town of Canandaigua. Chapter 174-15. There's a list of things that the planning board has to find before they can grant subdivision. They're very similar to the things the planning board has to find before you grant site plan approval. 174-15 subparagraph E. Subparagraph 1 is that the proposed lots and development provide for safe and efficient vehicular and pedestrian access, adequate emergency access, proper drainage, safe and sufficient water supply, sewage disposal. Subparagraph F is resulting development will not have an undue negative impact on the safety and efficiency of the existing road network or neighboring properties. Proposed layouts are designed to minimize modification and so on. So the standard is your discretion. And one of the, you have an engineer who reviews these, and apparently he's been applying AASHTO standards this whole time. I didn't know that. You didn't need to know that if he's, recommending, yep, this is fine, this is safe, this is in compliance, and then you can validly and legitimately make a finding that, yeah, this is a safe and efficient vehicular and pedestrian access. Now,
Would this actually be considered a waiver of a requirement to do an alternate design using warning signs, which I agree, it isn't accepted engineering practice.
so no, it would not be a waiver.
It would
What
not.
your standard that you need to apply is if there is safe and efficient vehicular and pedestrian access. Now, you should, in my opinion, listen to your engineer, whether or not there's safe and efficient vehicular access. You use your own judgment, your own experience, and you, like you just said, and you said at the last meeting, you want AASHTO standards applied, but it's engineering practice to mitigate, for lack of a better term, when you can't. So if in your discretion, in your informed discretion with your engineer's direction and your town staff's direction. What you need to decide is if it's safe and efficient. Not whether it meets ASHTO standards, but whether it's safe and efficient.
Or the uses proposed.
Yes, thank you.
And the reason I say that, I think I had a major concern when we were looking at the possibility of lot 3 being a campsite. Being used by people coming and going, not familiar with the area. Not aware of the potential danger of pulling out onto Seneca Point Road from that, even that driveway access there to the north. Now that that has gone away, we're essentially looking at a 3-lot subdivision. Lot 1 having existing home, lot 2 having a potential home, and I guess lot 3 having a potential single family home.
Well, lot 3 is potential use and lot 2. Its potential use would be any permitted or specially permitted use in the zoning district.
Yes.
So not just single family homes, but it could be a campground, it could be a,
Well, it can't be a campground because it's in the scenic view shed. The only thing that's allowed in the scenic view shed is basically single family homes. There's a criteria, there's only like 4 different uses and campground is not even on the table.
okay.
Coming back to the site distance, I do have a couple other questions about procedure.
Sure.
And I was just curious if MRB has a traffic engineer and whether a traffic engineer has reviewed this and recommends that the proposal be accepted.
So no, MRB does not have a traffic engineer, but I can at least talk about historically as we've seen them. We've seen a number of these subdivisions come in both in town of Canandaigua and other communities, but specifically here, as it relates to single family home subdivisions, assuming that that's what's proposed. I get that there's other uses that could be permitted. I believe the when this has been brought to our attention that ASHTO, the recommended standard, was not being met and couldn't be met by physically moving the driveway, and alterations had to be required in order to improve upon the site distance. That the board has either required the best line of sight to be provided, whatever that required them to do. And provided a note on the plans that said the applicant was aware that the site distance didn't meet the recommended standards, but it's noted on the plans as such. Kind of similar to those that we've had along the lake shore that are located in a flood zone. It's acknowledged that your house is in a potentially flooding area. They have to obviously meet whatever standards are required of them, but a note be added that makes the applicant aware that they're building in potentially flooding area.
But so they don't have to do any mitigation.
No, I think that's completely up to the board to determine whether or not, if what I understand to be provided is that the line of sight currently has a distance that does not reflect the recommended standard, but could be potentially approved upon by doing mitigation of the site, then those are something that the planning board would have to decide whether or not they want to impose on the applicant to improve upon, because I would, you want the best site distance as possible. I don't think there's a way to accommodate that. Mr. Chairman. Yes, something.
Bob, you're up.
Oh, thank you very much. After our last meeting, we had that discussion. I did a lot of research on that, and in my opinion, I think we're using that ASHI standard, and that standard is for the development of streets, accessing highways and etc. And as I mentioned last meeting, that this was a driveway and that standard was slightly different. I found the research showed me that even the New York State DOT, I don't have the number right in front of me right now, states that even driveways, residential driveways, are under a lower standard. Also, just to state for the fact, as it was stated last time, that site distance was 320 feet, not 500 feet. And if this applicant is stating that he can get to 320, then I believe that is sufficient to fulfill the requirement of his site distance to the left.
Okay,
So I think that, Bob, thanks for that reference to the New York State Department of Transportation policy on driveway designs.
Yeah.
I think I read in that in situations where the AASHTO standards couldn't be met, that it did require the approval of the regional traffic engineer, as well as alternative designs using warning signs from MUTCD.
I want to,
For
be-
state
I want to
roads.
be very, very clear. The town. There's no regulation in the town of Canandaigua that site distance has to meet any particular specific linear footage or standard.
For driving.
Ash- for
Hey, Chris,
driveway
can I say one
or
thing on that?
intersection. Yeah,
Chris, there's one thing on, in the definitions in 17-8, I think it is, where it talks about site distance, and it says for a major street collector or classified collector street, that it was 500. And if it was a lesser classified street collector, that it was 15 feet. Actually, that's in the definitions for site distance. So that's the only reference I found in code for site distances for us at all. I checked with Jim on what the classification was Seneca Point, and he said it was a lower classified collector road street, basically. So that was kind of what I was basing my thought process on the last time.
Bob, are you talking about in our town code definitions or in the subdivision?
In the
section?
definitions for site distances, yeah, it says 500 for a major, I think, and 15 for lesser, or top of my head, I can't remember what it's exactly. That's in the definitions. 17-8, I want to say.
Okay, well, I'm still learning. I did refer to the site design and development criteria for the town of Canandaigua. And there is a reference, section 2.12 about driveway design requirements. And those driveway design requirements do talk about applicable town codes, county standards, and the requirements of New York State Department of Transportation policy and standards for entrances to state highways. So that's all I was going on. I appreciate your
Yeah.
clarification that it's not a code.
Sorry. It's not a code in determining whether there's a subdivision in the planning board's determination to grant subdivision. Sorry, we do have certain standards like our site design, like that definition, but in terms of this specific issue before you, there's not a specific rule. It's your determination whether it's safe and efficient, and you're gonna,
and that is our
and
discretion.
it's a good question. too.
And it's up to us to determine based on the use, based on, and the other thing, folks, remember, this is a minor 3-lot subdivision this evening we're looking at. Whatever happens to those lots, lots 2 and 3 in the future, the applicant will have to come back to us for whatever whether they put houses or whether they put a church. And they would have to get approval, and as part of the consideration of that site plan, I think that's when we really look at, okay, for the type of use that's proposed or the site that's gonna be developed, is the driveway, the common driveway adequate to service those uses? And I think maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here in terms of, I think as long as we provide access to all 3 lots through a common driveway that has the appropriate easements, and it's been, delineated on the plan. And true, we can put a fair warning on the plan, similar to what Lance said, that the applicant is aware that when he and she decide to come in and apply for site plan approval, the site distance at that driveway intersection with Seneca Point Road will be a concern and a consideration at that time. Okay, so again, I feel much more comfortable now that I know that the campsite is not going to be part, or it is currently not being considered, and therefore the chances of people unfamiliar with the area coming out to that intersection and having to deal with the traffic on Seneca Point Road is much less. And I feel in my discretion that it would be, as long as we provide potential mitigation regarding signs, trimming back shrubbery and brush at the time that the lots are developed, I think we've done our due diligence and
Yeah, I
done our response.
kind of stole the words out of my mouth. I think the mitigation and safety concerns should be thought more intensely with site plan review, because that's when we can actually make changes to the site. Subdivision criteria doesn't really specify that.
Because physically, nothing's changing
No.
as a result of section.
Just a lot of lines.
Okay. So it's not like,
So in other words, you're creating the realty lots, but they cannot be developed until site plan review has been approved.
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right,
Yep.
Yes.
that helps. me.
So frequently, Tim, and it just keep, sometimes it's easier to think of it like this. Frequently, the planning board is more, or it's more often you're faced with this same plan, but with no structures on it. Somebody's dividing their vacant land into 3 lots. And sometimes the subdivision plan might show this is probably where we're gonna have a house, but that's not approval, that's the location for the house. This has existing structures on it and a proposed driveway. So they'd have to come back for site plan approval and then get a building permit and potentially a special use permit and all that sort of thing.
Bob, how do you feel? Okay?
Yeah, I really do feel good, especially if, even if they do that mitigation, to get 320. And, yeah, I totally feel good. I see that they moved their driveway more to, I think, the south, I think it is, to get away from that issue of the apron being on the other property there. So other than that, it all looked good to me. Yeah.
Just a couple other items just to make sure we dotted our i's and crossed our t's here.
Site plan.
The access utility easement required for the common driveway, that will be required as part of the subdivision. And I think MRB had that in their review letter. So, and I think we also have it in the conditions of approval. So that access easement will have to be established as part of the subdivision along with the recording. You did have a note on there that we're not approving building lots, which is our standard note regarding lack of any type of percolation or septic review. You see, the Ontario County Planning Board, most of their comments were related to the site plan, which now doesn't apply. Ag Committee, I think we went over this, they, back in October, they had requested additional information, but I think in the long and short of it, they felt that no valuable ag land would be lost. MRB had their letter of the 15th of January. We do have a seeker now, part 1, that reflects 3 lots, not 5 lots. CEO Mike Murphy, most of his, again, were site plan related to the campsite. And that's about it for me.
Hey, Chuck?
Yes, Bob.
I think the Ag Committee also had a question about accessibility, if that was going to be written into this plan at all for the potential farmer that was coming that way to go to that lower field. I didn't see anything on that.
Using which driveway? The one all the way
The
to
common
south?
driveway, the common driveway.
Common.
Is that currently being farmed right now, Anthony? Which one? Any of your land?
No,
To
no,
have
we
access.
lost, we gave up our ag rights for that. We had a farmer farm it, he made a mess of the property, so we just canceled it. We'll eat the tax difference. We don't wanna do monocrop farming on our property anymore.
Did you hear the response, Bob?
Yeah, I think I did. It was basically the farmer wasn't using good practices and they didn't want him there anymore. And that's my only question was that what the ag asked for. So therefore, if he's not gonna actually farm that land, then I guess that's out of the question.
Not to forget you, Kim, but the ECB did say, make sure we show all NRI features, which I think are shown for the most part in that shaded area with the steep slopes. And the ECB did recommend denial. Anybody else have anything? We ready to move on? Sure. Let's see, we've got a seeker is, excuse me, I'll close the public hearing. Oh, excuse me, anybody, anybody in remote land, or I don't think there's anybody here, anybody in remote land that'd like to address the board regarding this application as it currently stands? Okay, then we can move on. All right, we've got a seeker resolution. This is an unlisted action with the updated part one. Let's take it separate from the subdivision.
I'll make a motion to move on the seeker resolution of unlisted action for CPN 23092 at 4765 Seneca Point Road for subdivision.
I'll second that. Motion second, I think we're gonna be looking for a SHPO.
Not on the subdivision, on site plan.
Okay, okay. Even though
We
it
need to
said
write that
yes.
down, the
Right,
letter
there.
of time.
Okay,
Yeah, practically, they would have to provide that no impact letter prior to any disturbance associated with the site plan.
okay.
Can I also just ask before, just, this is an access easement.
This is
Over-
seeker we're talking about.
No, I know, I'm just looking at the plan, sorry, Chuck,
That's
before we
right.
go too much further. This section lands will be on lot 3,
Correct.
sorry,
And
Just wanted to make
transverses across. lot
this section
three
is
to
on,
lot two.
okay, got it, thank you. Sorry to
Okay,
interrupt.
so I have a motion and a second to adopt an unlisted, take an unlisted action on the seeker for discussion. Not all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to the subdivision. Again, a minor 3-lot subdivision. Common drive will be established as part of this action.
Yes.
Someone want to take this up?
I move to approve subdivision. Lance, how many do we have now?
So I have a total of 8, but I want to clarify, number 4 and number 7 as written. Were based upon there being a site plan application
Mm.
pending. And so I don't know that those are necessarily applicable at this time
Okay,
for the
right.
subdivision.
4 and
So I would,
7.
yeah, my thought would be to remove them, the board would agree upon that.
Yeah.
If they do, then
Yes,
the new 8 would be that the note regarding the site distance being added to the plans. And that further evaluation will be addressed as part of site plan review for either lot 1, 2, or 3.
So we've got 8.
8, but I also like to identify that lot, condition number 7. I believe I received from the town was that a trail for public access to the town is to be added to the plans prior to signature. I'm not totally familiar. with-
That was strange to me.
Yeah, I guess not totally familiar with that. I didn't know if you had more information on that or not.
Up to the board, we've been, the town staff, it's been the town, our previous town manager. Has been was in negotiations with the property owner for a trail. Easement. And I guess it's ongoing, so I would say that.
We're trying.
So it hasn't been established yet. It's in discussion, so there's
So would it
nothing to show on the plan
But I-
other than
maybe
a
put
concept.
Maybe put a note on the plans that the applicant is working with the town to identify a trail potentially traversing. across.
That's fine.
So
Is that
leave it
okay
in
with the
there and
applicant?
just change the
Yeah.
words.
Okay.
That would be more.
Yeah.
No,
So it's been discussion.
Sure. Probably.
I would suggest another note, the park and rec fee.
yes.
Upon building permits.
So that's number 9.
Nine, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay, so
Nine is
So now we have 9.
did I get a formal motion?
I did with the 9 conditions we're just waiting for.
Okay.
And I will second.
Thank you, motion a second. Further discussions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay,
No,
oh, I'm sorry. We have one negative, so you vote was 4-1. All right, let's move on. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Again.
See, but a good one.
Okay, next we have a new public hearing. For a property on New Michigan Road, subdivision of a 27-acre vacant parcel into 2 parcels. Lights, is it the Lightses? Is someone here representing Chris Lights? This is.
Wait, Logan, it's Mark's engineering plan, right?
It is.
No,
Mark.
no, it's not, no.
Yeah, yeah, it says Mark.
Is it? No.
Mark.
You want me to go grab it and see?
Yeah, just.
It says it right on the front.
I thought it was a survey, just that surveyor.
Yeah, I think they're sure there.
Oh.
Might not represent them. Person. So can you sign that?
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry. I didn't know if you already signed yours. Yeah.
All right, let's not, we had another.
Logan prepped and prepared a PowerPoint presentation for this. Can you call the plan up for?
Are you familiar?
Yeah,
You're looking at this thing like the first time you saw
Look at
it.
the plan.
Give me a moment, it's a minor subdivision, looks like it meets all the criteria for minor subdivision.
What else could you say, right?
Maybe, do you have any questions?
Yeah, do you have any questions on minor subdivision in town of Canandaigua? Seems like it meets all the site distance requirements.
You're aware of that. See, we trained you well.
so this does meet Ashton?
Yeah.
Technically doesn't go.
Looks like a pretty straight road with a little.
Yeah, I don't.
Is lot number 2 a flag lot? Considered a flag lot, Chuck?
Did you review this?
No, that's fine.
Kristen's gonna fill us in a little bit on it.
So
It's got 2, oh, excuse me, do your ZLD.
It's pretty straightforward, so. The parent parcel is 27.907 acres. They're gonna be subdividing, so there'll be 2 lots. Lot 1 will be 19 acres. Lot 2 will be almost 9 acres. Both of the proposed lots are of sufficient area and dimensions to meet zoning in the AR2 zoning district. It's pretty straightforward.
You have a pipeline up there. Is that subject to an easement of some
I
sort?
imagine there's an easement in place for that, it's pretty typical of.
I think you should show the limits of the easement.
Yeah.
I assume that's the center line of the pipeline.
Right.
Yeah. And if you do that, then your building setback line comes down to the easement line, so it would not be the standard.
Well, there'd be an additional line that would prohibit building to that point. So we usually show both. But you're right, it limits the development of the site based on the easement.
Well, again, in subdivisions, we usually show whatever encumbrances
Right.
are on the property.
I mean, that's something that I can have the survey department add as a
Show-
condition of
Show
the.
the pipeline easements.
Yep.
Delineation. And again, then your building setback line to the north
Mhm.
would come down to, it would be the southern edge of the easement line.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I think you want to go up to the location map real quick. I think you had the numbers. You have lot 2 being the bigger lot 1 being the smaller lot, then you get down to the subdivision plan and it's the other way around.
Okay.
I really think I did one this second.
So they're mislabeled,
Yeah.
one and two.
Yeah, either. Probably the best thing to do is change the location map to
Location that be updated to.
one being,
reflect.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, one being the big one. Okay. Your plan notes in note 11 that there are no NRI features on the property. It's just pasture, I guess, right? It's been flat,
It looks flat.
no woods, no. Talked about, reverse the lot numbers. Bobby, have any questions?
No, I didn't. This looked pretty simple, straightforward, except for it's up against the PUD there. That was it.
Yeah, and I guess the Purdy, Brockton.
Rocketbank, yep.
And I want to acknowledge that Ag Committee and their recommendation, and just to quote directly from them. In their recommendation, they say the proposed subdivision does not cause a loss of ag land for the town, but it does put the ag lands at risk for development, which would be a subsequent loss. And so at this time, it's only subdivision, it's lines on paper, it's not development. I acknowledge the risk that the Ag Committee has outlined, and ECB also echoed Ag Committee or vice versa, whoever came first, chicken or egg. And had consistent remarks with each other about that. So I would ask what the intention is, but I don't know if we really know that of any future
I
developments.
currently do not know that. I mean, you'll probably see it when it comes in if it comes in for site plan
Mhm.
review. I mean, there's many reasons why people subdivide land.
Yeah.
You transfer to a family member, but at this point, I don't know.
Thank
But, and in terms of risk of loss of agricultural land, the only reasons why I've ever seen, and anyone here has ever seen this type of subdivision farmland is to put one house in the corner
Right,
of each of those
Right.
properties,
Exactly.
usually for one's son or daughter.
right, exactly,
But,
exactly.
you know, and 5 years from now, you may see a few more houses being subdivided, but
Mhm.
that's not how you start single family residential development.
Right,
It's gonna eradicate that.
right.
Well, the other potential is join it to a neighbor,
Mhm. Mhm.
and knowing who's to the left, it might be, increase in their acreage.
Yeah.
The owner did state they're subdividing for sale purposes.
Okay.
Okay, well, it's a 2-lot subdivision. We coulda, woulda, shouldas, I guess. And county planning board had no comments. Jim Fletcher, no comments. And. Wait. Right date on the plan, January 18th. Yep. All right, we're ready to move on. I didn't open the hearing, but I'll close well, I won't close the hearing. Does anyone like to address the board regarding this application on New Michigan Road? Okay. And do that, that's what it is. Okay, I will close the hearing. Let's move on to deliberation and action. Again, we're looking at a unlisted review on the seeker. Someone want to take that for us?
I move to, for CPN 23-149. Did we make a determination of non-significance? Some seekers and unlisted action?
I'll second.
Take a motion, get a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to the,
I will make a motion to approve the single stage subdivision for 23-149. And do we have any newer changing conditions?
switch the numbers.
Yeah, we have
The
two standard as written, and then three was identifying the pipeline easement.
Yep.
That's to be labeled on the plans with library and page number. And then four was the location map to be updated to reflect the correct labeling of the lots
Got it.
as reflected on the subdivision.
Okay. So with the four conditions as discussed.
Okay, thanks. Got a motion and a second from Tim. Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, now you can go.
That was your quickest approval ever, I think.
I like that.
Any,
Hey, Logan, yes, thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah, no problem.
okay. And we move on to our last item for the evening regarding a new site plan. CPN 23-150. Mr. G-Felt.
Yep.
Okay. Representing the owner of a property at 4410
Connection.
Routes 5 and 20 in Canandaigua, site plan approval requested for a 15,800 square foot medical office building with associated parking, utilities, and a bioretention basin. Evan,
Yes.
how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So. I'll switch the plan. So I'll give a quick overview while we're getting to the site plan. Originally, this was one parcel that was developed in the early 2000s as part of the hotel development with the two out parcels. Since the hotel's been built, the property has been subdivided. And essentially, we have the same design that was approved at that time, but it's 100 square feet less than what was approved. The building is going to be medical, 2 offices with shared parking, 15,800 square feet. We have wetlands to the south and to the east. They've been recently in December, early December, they were delineated, redelineated. And the ones to the south and to the east are state, so you can see the 100-foot setbacks that we are out of. The floodplain, we impact the floodplain slightly by the parking or the access to the south with the grading. That has been mitigated. That has been sent to MRB for review. We're actually mitigating more than what we're filling. What else? The stormwater can utilize, it's part of the original approval, the stormwater management facility in the rear of the property. So everything will sheet drain from the perimeter by retention areas. And then make its way to the stormwater retention pond in the rear. Utilities are subbed on the property. So we'll be connecting to the sanitary, the water. The drive is a private drive, it's not dedicated to the town. So the access agreement has been submitted as part of the application for review. We received MRB's comments. We submitted a response to comments letter. And I know one of the items we were looking for was the SHPO no impact letter. I did receive that before I left the office today.
Okay.
Nate Rossi, can you speak to the building?
Hi, Nate Rossi from Rossi Architects. As Evan said, just under 16,000 square foot building, non-combustible construction, durable materials intended to be compatible with surrounding buildings. Neutral color tone. Building height is set at 15 feet, which is a development restriction. So we're staying underneath that. We have a masonry wainscot around the front portions of the building. Ephes, beige ephes along the surrounding the building, and then some accent features at two entrances with black metal panel and some wood panels. As Evan said, medical office building, and the entrances are oriented to take advantage of the handicap parking that he's provided. Any questions?
Evan, you want to talk a little bit about the parking? You're asking for a waiver or relief from the 20-foot, and I guess your thoughts are that it's considered joint parking, so therefore you can go down to a 10-foot.
Yes.
Expand on that.
So per that section of the code with the shared parking, this being two separate medical uses, we consider that the shared parking, it will be shared throughout. Again, this was designed originally as an overall development that was coherent and to promote consistent character throughout. We kind of want to stay in line with that. And that waiver also keeps us from approaching the wetland buffer in the back and the floodplain.
Well, then I guess let's talk the numbers first. You're showing 70 spaces. I think?
We're showing 68.
That's good. Okay.
What is code required?
So code is based off of basically there's the use. So we use
Yeah.
ITE.
I think Chris is another one where the planning board has discretion.
What does ASHTO require?
And that's it.
Nobody's moving with the car.
So,
Yeah, that's why.
I guess what,
I kind of
what
want
is,
to discuss it, 68 spaces. Using standards that you calculated, it came out to 42, I think.
Right.
Being required. So I know there was a suggestion. Somebody, one of the reviews had mentioned banking some spaces. And again, I guess you got to tell me what's the justification for the 68? Is it something that in the use has so much turnover that you have people coming and going?
That's the biggest thing is the one tenant is set, the other one is not at this time, but to draw them here. We need that turnover and that availability. So that's really just to provide that additional for medical use, and with the amount of handicap that the code requires.
And you're showing 7 handicap spaces. There's 10% of the 7. Yeah, I think it was. And you said something about 2 van spots.
Yep.
Okay. Where were the van spots? I see 7 handicap.
mean, typically the van accessibility is where the gore striping, so that side door
Sure.
can open to it. For loading.
So maybe it's 7 handicap, 2 of them being.
Very accessible. But it's,
Does that have a different delineation as far as pavement markings and signage for? Or you just, do you keep them
there
dedicated
is, so on
to
that,
vans?
that on the post. On the post, it will say van accessible.
Okay. Yep, I remember, I've seen those.
Okay.
Okay, board, I guess we have to consider whether we're willing to grant relief. Of the setback, rather than being 20 feet, being 10 feet. Was there?
I think, if you don't mind, to add with that, you know, this is internal to that private road. You know.
Yeah, and I think that's, if you're fronting on a public road,
Right.
I could see it being more of an issue with, the setback. And. Yeah, and I think the original plan
Was,
showed this right back in 08.
correct.
What is the parking? It looks like 4420 is very a similar use, is that accurate? Approved as part of this thing,
You mean to come up with the 42 spaces or?
what do they have? Is it enough? If you got a comparable, is this gonna be enough parking, is it too much parking, is it?
What I think the way I was leaning, I thought it was maybe overkill. I thought it was too many spaces.
Well, that's what I'm saying, it
Yeah.
looks like the one behind it, which has more. That 2-story, that way it's so many more square feet, that's the same amount of,
Hotel.
oh, that's a hotel?
Yeah,
I
it's
thought
the
it was,
Holiday Inn.
I thought it was the other medical, sorry.
Everybody's proposed. What's the difference?
That would explain.
What's the difference between
Between a hotel and a
No, no.
medical building?
No.
Well,
between required and proposed?
Depends what kind of condition.
Just a setback.
can you tell, required being, I guess, recommended by ITE?
So we looked at ITE, kind of a guess of, you know, it's by chair, number of chairs or doctors, so that brought us to the 42, where we're proposing the 68.
42 were required and 68 are being proposed? Did you say that?
Yeah, but I don't think we can, I don't
Recommended,
think we
not-
can say required,
Oh,
because
okay.
42 is not.
So we don't have a code
There's no
requirement
code
for a number of parking spaces?
Correct.
Tim, it's another one of the planning board's discretions.
And
We did that about 10 years
This
ago.
number of spots is not atypical for what would be required by many municipalities for medical use. To hit on your point, it really has to do with the amount of people coming and going. So as one patient is being seen, another one still hasn't left yet, and another one is arriving early, and they may have guests with them, so.
I think there's still also some are doing, where you still stay in your car and have to call in.
Correct.
and You have to sit there and wait.
Do you have other buildings like this?
We're in other buildings.
Okay. Do you have examples of why you would need this much parking? Have you seen buildings like this?
Absolutely, yeah.
That need this much parking?
Absolutely. I mean, it's almost a standard as part of the lease request for many of the medical systems around here. To have this or more.
You have a firm commitment for a medical office, right? In
Yes.
part of the building. The other you said is still up in the air.
Yes.
I mean, your original application said something about a dental office.
Yes, the
Yep.
dental office
Dental
is confirmed.
committed.
So it'll be another medical use.
Correct.
It's just a matter of who might be the,
Of how many
We're there.
square feet is the dental?
It's the smaller section in
the office,
the top.
northern section.
1,500, and how much is the medical?
About 10.
10,000, that's huge.
Well, and everybody wants to park near the door.
And some people have.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking, people coming in to see a physician a lot of times.
And staff, right?
And staff,
and-
exactly.
Well,
It's a
staff
high
is
staff ratio as
Yeah.
well.
We're talking.
Facilities that size, there will be a lot of.
Okay.
Hygienists and nurses. things.
Well, that'll be a deliberation of the board, whether you feel that the setback is warranted, and again, I think the argument being that it's set back from a road that is a common driveway to
Yes.
the hotel. So it's not a big issue, as big an issue if it was a public street, and then it's just a matter of the number of spaces and whether we have them installed on that at this point, or consider banking of them, but banking makes sense in bigger properties. I think, smaller property that try to come in and say, okay, well, we need that blacktop, let's put the blacktop in, now you got a joint. Thinking of the engineering side of things, so. It's either all or nothing, I guess, as far as. We put it in now, or we don't put. Excuse me?
They did keep it away from. where
Oh, the
buildings
outlet
are
and the
getting
floodplain
located.
and, yep,
Mhm.
yep, the wetlands and all that.
Previously approved site has loading dock in the rear of the property.
Really?
Yeah. From the early 2000 or 2008, we'll call it.
Yeah, that was gonna be a retail. I
Yeah.
think it was a retail building. There's retail there and retail across the street. Okay.
Question, stormwater management?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that.
So the stormwater management, as part of the original approval of the hotel, the SWIP was designed and the stormwater management facility, up to the top of the page was installed for full development. They have rights to use that stormwater management facility. So all the stormwater is pitching away from the building. The brown kind of areas around the parking lot or the bio retention areas, it'll sheet into that. It's got under drain. We'll go through that. The under drain will make its way and connect back to the stormwater facility.
Will there be any drop inlets in the event that the under drain area is frozen?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So all the water would be collected and then piped to this detention area, retention area.
Whatever doesn't infiltrate.
Right.
Yeah, the original overall project, the water facilities, the stormwater facilities were sized to handle all of the lots associated with for quantity. So each lot that comes before you going forward will have to do quality on their site, which is what is being proposed with this application.
Excellent.
The car wash is expanding, right? Didn't we approve that? Across the road?
There was talk about it, but
Yeah. It was a sketch only.
Was a sketch, okay.
they were in CS with a sketch.
Mhm.
That was, gosh, a year ago.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hey Chuck, I just had one question.
Go, Bob.
I just, I heard that there was a waiver for the road easement there, but is there a need for a discussion on how close it is to the outlet to Canandaigua Lake? Like Blue Line Waters, building within 100 feet of it?
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, the building is more than 100 feet from the center line of the creek.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's out of the floodplain.
It doesn't show
Copy.
on this one, but we do show that 100-foot offset from the wetlands.
Which, and correct
it
me if
on
I'm
one of
wrong,
the sheets
it's
here?
out of the floodplain, but in the wetlands a little bit?
No.
Oh, the other way
Other
around?
way around. So this was what was delineated as the wetland at the inlet, the outlet. Can't remember which one. But outlet.
Outlet.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, north.
This dash line is that 100-foot offset. So we.
Copy that, thank you.
And while you're there, the floodplain is
So
your,
the floodplain is the darker line, so we come in here and just here. Do you have that other color?
Well, it's not your building.
It's not in, okay.
No, it's announced.
So because we're filling here and here, we are mitigating in the floodplain, taking more out in that area. So we're creating that additional or space for the floodplain or for the flood. And we wanted to utilize it and put some landscape in there to help with dumpster enclosure and whatnot.
and
So you're trading.
Correct. Well, yeah.
are you seeking or have gotten some sort of delineation from the Corps?
We're in the process of doing that now.
Was that in your letter or was it?
I don't recall it.
I think,
The-
just don't want to lose track. Something wrong. Sure. And the landscaping that you're installing, yeah, you want to go over that real quick?
Sure,
You've got the dumpster down there.
most of the landscape is native. I've been asked to substitute the forsythia, which we will do. You know, we have some of the plant material in the bioretention areas. I know that was one of the comments. I did look and have added, it can add some additional planting. My experience that overplanting these becomes maintenance nightmare. And sometimes they get overplanted in the beginning and then it just grows into.
Yeah, and the concern I would have had was buffering from 5 and 20 to a certain degree, but you got that
Already,
clump of trees there
correct.
between 5 and 20 of the buildings, so. I think, you know, what you're proposed is adequate.
You know, going out towards the road, there is a water main easement, so, you know, I didn't want to put any trees under the easement.
And lighting,
So
we
lighting,
had some lights on the islands with bump outs.
correct. So uniform lighting for medical use. Dark sky compliant, bug compliant. Will be shielded. The standard.
There are lights in the right of way, the driveway. There's 2 poles, I think you showed me there, so
They're on the other.
these will complement, supplement.
Correct, because we essentially, is there one more page down?
Yeah.
Yes, please. So you can see our light spillage out onto that access road is very minimal. So that should blend in, make it pretty consistent.
And that's your cut sheet on your texture over there, right?
That is, so that the Lithonia is our standard that we use, we like. And I have uploaded to the cloud permit for MRB, the actual spec of the light. The cut sheet.
How high is the pole? You got the. You got the
The pole
foundation.
is 20 feet and the base will be exposed 2 feet,
2
so
feet.
22 feet.
Back to the retention.
Yep.
Does anyone know if the current retention system on the hotel property is functioning properly or in need of any maintenance?
So the town, as part of the hotel, had a stormwater maintenance agreement. And they're obligated to maintain that under the general permit criteria for private ownership. Right, so the town as an MS4 would be getting those inspection reports yearly, right? In every 2 years, depending upon the agreement. I couldn't answer whether or not they've identified any need for repair or not, or if any repair has been completed out there.
That being said, with this location, my guess is that Jim Fletcher and Murphy keep it pretty close, and Kevin Mulvaney keep a pretty good eye on it, and
As a result of the project as well, we all have a new stormwater maintenance agreement, right? That'll have to be addressed, which, so if there's any.
I was just, I remember
Repairs.
Fox Ridge, we had a detention basin, retention basin that is gonna take flow from a new part of the development and found out that the whole sill really wasn't functioning as it should. But again, that, I think that was before MS4.
Correct.
So now we're into a annual inspection. I assume you guys in your survey went out and checked as to the functionality of the existing basin?
We
Check
shot a survey and
Yeah.
it matched pretty close to,
To
it
what
matched to
was
what was designed originally. But like Lance said, with the MS4, that report should be sent into the town for review. I know at our office, we're doing them right now, all the time inspections.
And as part of the closeout of the hotel, prior to the town authorizing that LTV, have those facilities cleaned out. And removal of the construction debris that would have been transmitted to the facility during the marriage.
Which I think that permit was just closed out in 2020.
That wasn't.
Yeah.
Would the facilities they're constructing be subject to a maintenance either?
Yeah, so we would
I
be
can
getting,
recall
we
reading.
would be
it,
getting a new updated stormwater management agreement that has
For
not
this
only
property.
the hotel property owner, but the owner of this property as well, so agreeing to maintaining these facilities.
All right. Sewer, you gotta work with you have an injection pump and force main to. You have a new pump to put in, right?
Correct.
And you got the existing water line. Out there, you've got fire hydrants.
Yep.
Sidewalk. We have sidewalk on the west side of that driveway, so I think that's adequate as far as. I think you had mentioned, Lance, about the crosswalk,
And to bring them over to the existing sidewalk across.
that be,
We had suggested that they have a sidewalk over here, and there's an existing one over here,
Mhm.
and a crosswalk provided there. To accommodate crossing over as this sidewalk continues out, and no sidewalk down here continues out, so the idea of people walking. Those that are walking to the facility at Betty. But at least they would have that.
okay, that's in your letter. Sidewalks. Signage, you know that any signage you want to install in the future would be subject to a special use permit.
Yep.
Being that you're in the CC district. Again, the ECB, you mentioned removing the forsythia, sticking with native species, concern about lighting. They mentioned the excess parking spaces, whether they were in excess or not. County. You're dealing with the sewer district in terms of the force main. They wanted to see some calcs.
Yep.
They also talked about updating the SWIP
Well, which is part of the project.
from the 208.
Well, they're provided their own SWIP associated with this project.
NIDOT had no comments since there's no work in the right of way. Yeah, 15-foot high building, talked about the handicap parking. Deviation, the ship a letter you said you got.
I had to get as a condition.
Sewer maintenance agreement. Jim Fletcher had mentioned about having the county's detail sheets, not the town.
That's been revised.
Okay.
Yep.
And county mentioned also having to get a permit to. Put the sanitary sewer, and we had new comments from the fire chief, new comments from the city of Canandaigua. The CEO, Murph had a letter dated the 24th. The code enforcement officer, I think a lot was building related.
It was, I have them as a condition, but I don't
Okay.
think there's anything.
Okay, I see it,
Substantial.
number 5. Okay. Anybody in the audience like to address the board regarding this application? You folks have anything further to add?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on. Again, we're looking at a was there a formal waiver request? For the, I didn't see it in,
I don't think in the code it was written weird.
It was written weird.
oh,
So we had.
having to do with the joint?
Correct, so we had put a letter together asking for that relief.
Okay. when we get to the site plan, just make sure we
We'll document those.
have a whereas.
Yeah.
Okay.
One is a whereas or is a condition is.
I think
We've done as a whereas before,
we've done it as a whereas, I think.
Yeah.
Granted a waiver.
That's fine.
and we can state what we're granting.
All right, let's get back to seeker. Again, we're unlisted.
Should be.
Anybody have any issues with moving on the seeker? If not, give me a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion on the seeker determination of non-significance for 23-150 at 4410 Route 5 and 20.
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion a second. We've got a part one submitted by the applicant. Parts 2 and 3 submitted by Lance. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that carries. Let's move on to the site.
Count, which is it?
Anyways, can.
I'm trying to like review myself.
No, I know.
He's counting, just count the
How many conditions?
Count the-
Other than-
I have. I think I'm up, let me just go over them real quick. So the 9 as written, I think are accurate and based on basically standard for just like. Once identify that 8 and 9 have to deal with the easements. So 8 is talking about the stormwater access, the stormwater maintenance agreement. Is to be filed with the town prior to issuance of building permits and construction beginning. 9 is the easements and boundary descriptions that we provided to the town attorney. And MRB and approval required prior to the plans being signed, which is the standard for the town. The new ones is number 10, being that they're doing disturbance in a floodplain, that they do have to seek a floodplain management permit from the town. It's the CEO, just don't permit that they have an issue. So I didn't identify that previously, so I made that as a condition that would have to be addressed. 11 will ship a letter, the no impact letters to be provided to the town prior to construction or issuance of a permit. And then 12 was, I had originally as the waiver, but I think we're gonna put that as a whereas. And then you mentioned Army Corps, but I think Army Corps would only, I think that's the floodplain management, I'm not. You're not in the wetlands or in the wetland boundary.
Right.
And we don't necessarily need a permission or approval from the Corps.
Right.
So you mentioned the Corps, Chuck, and I'm fine with making it, I just didn't, if they're not disturbing in the wetlands or in the wetland boundary. And we don't necessarily
I just
need,
read somewhere you were seeking it. I think it was in one of your pieces of correspondence. You were
on the accuracy of the wetland boundary, so you were having a delineation completed.
Correct.
Thank you.
And
That's what I was looking for
jurisdiction.
clarification.
Yeah.
All right, so then I would say that that letter is to be provided to the town prior to issuance of a building permit or construction beginning. That would be 13 or 12. Excuse me.
Okay. I move to accept site plan with 12 conditions for CPN 23-150.
looking at. Okay, motion second for discussion. If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Thanks, Roy.
This was a good applications all put together of both your parts and yours as well.
What I really liked, they had the easement documents for the right of way.
Terrible thing. Other than that, it's good. Looks like.
No, I was saying, usually we have to go looking for the easement document.
Yeah.
Regarding the
that's one of
driveway
things.
access.
Just, I mean,
You submitted that,
Yeah.
and then have to go looking for it. You know, you have right to use the driveway, so have at it. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Hey, gentlemen.
When are you gonna start building? Just out of curiosity, if you know, later today.
This is actually, Dr. Antomaso and Dr. Wolf, they're the dentists that will be occupying.
Oh, good.
Oh, well, you could have just said how many parking spaces you
I
wanted.
need more, but we have big staff, so it's really the issue.
Hope you have a lot of patience. too. Okay.
Everybody needs someone.
All right, good luck. Good luck.
I am, can you just look at this?
Do I need or the Donjon? like my other dentist recommended.
Each thing.
Does anyone ever talk to you about braces? I'm 30.
Okay, hang in there, Bob. We're almost done.
No problem.
Let's see, we got the minutes from the meeting on the 13th, which Bob so graciously ran. Thank you, Bob, for doing that.
Great job. Thank you.
So will someone who was at that meeting take a motion?
I would like to move to approve the minutes of February 13th, 2024.
I'll second.
The motion second. In Favor?
Hi.
I can't vote.
Chuck.
Although
I abstain.
we changed that because.
We did change that, yeah.
Brandon understood it.
If I read the minutes and.
Yes.
And I did sit through the
Still weird
meeting.
to me.
You two were.
Right.
Okay,
No.
nice job, Drew. It was a tough meeting to take minutes for. All right, other business. The 2024 rules of procedure, which we adopted, have been put in formal form by our attorney. Thank you, Chris, on that.
And our staff is excited to, have agendas that are gonna be a little bit more straightforward. I think that should be the goal on all the application materials if we can, and agenda just so it's accessible and we're not wasting staff's time or yours.
We're excited too.
Does everybody want a final copy of those rules? They're online
No.
and they're in the planning board. Because I think Sarah put those up today, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to read them, you can go to them there and make a copy for yourself. Okay, we have no referrals from town board, no referrals from others. Let's go down to training. Just keep track of the Hancock boot camp, which is usually a 1 hour night thing. And the learn at lunch. It's being run by, there are a couple coming up. There's one on 3-4. There's one on 313 on forests, one on housing, 327. So get your credits. Our computers are in. They
Oh
are,
my goodness.
they're being dressed up and being made to meet the town of Canandaigua standards. So we should be getting our computers shortly.
Very good.
Okay, newsletter articles. Kim is looking for newsletter articles. I submitted one recently on the site design effort that we went through. So Bob, maybe when you get a chance, do something on the solar,
Yep, can do.
what we changed and how we improved it and how we're protecting the public.
Yeah, I was thinking about also doing something about making sure that when you're doing a site plan, these are the things that are most important to for us to see be, in sync, basically.
Okay. Very good. And other board members, if I'm gonna write something up, it's your prerogative. I guess as far as meeting with the town board, Kristen. ECB, you're next month, right?
The 11th.
The
There's a
11th.
schedule that just came out.
So I think we follow in April. I have no idea what they're looking for. Do you have an idea what they're looking for?
I asked that you give my 5-minute report.
Oh, really?
5-minute report.
5-minute report.
Yes,
Oh,
that's exactly,
I thought
well,
most of the meeting was,
no,
Back and
absolutely
forth.
not.
okay.
I think you should check with Jared or anybody on the town board. Give a little summary. If you have questions, town board, how do you want us to be doing these things? Such and such comes up all the time. Suggestions for code changes, I think that would be an appropriate time. And they may have some questions, they may not. I think this board in particular and all our boards it's pretty straightforward. All our boards are doing, in my opinion, a very good job. I don't think anybody's gonna get grilled hey, why are you
Oh,
doing
no,
this?
no. Just want-
Well, I mean, that's an
Wanna make sure they
opportunity to
get what
have
they
that
wanna hear.
happen. Hey, stop granting so many subdivisions, hey, why are you letting, they're not gonna say that, but I'm saying that's this is the opportunity
How
for
come
them.
you're not following Ashen?
I know how to tread tonight.
No, but I mean, I think you could check with Jared on that, Chuck.
I
Don't think any.
think it would be. The board should send us an invitation or invite us in, and this is what we'd like to. I think that would be the proper way to have the boards.
They would like
Be
us in
addressed.
attend, all the members in attendance at the meeting, correct?
Are you gonna have,
No, absolutely.
were you just coming by yourself or?
Actually,
I mean, you're all
Your
welcome.
members are invited, I guess.
Members
be Yeah.
invited, so it's
up to
them.
All right, well,
You're welcome to attend, but not expected. You. So,
Check.
well, and I mean, I think if you could muster another body. If one of you are interested.
another body, somebody to hold me up.
Weekend of it.
That's right.
Weekend at Bernie's sort of situation.
No, really, he's alive.
Sunglasses on. All right, well, more to come on that. So anything else for the good of the board? We have a meeting in March. It didn't look too bad, the agenda.
No, I'm sorry.
Three things, maybe?
Oh, you got a new one?
Well, I think it's the same one I passed, but I haven't given it. Chris.
Just handed it to you. While you're looking at that, I would just like to point out that the questions that we had today are good questions to ask. I myself was on the Airport Village Planning Board 25 to 30 years ago, and I didn't ask questions. I assumed if I didn't know, if I didn't understand what we were doing and everyone else did, it was my fault. It has been my distinct experience since becoming this board's attorney that the asking of questions doesn't indicate ignorance. It indicates, hey, we better make sure we're doing this the right way. So I strongly encourage everybody to keep asking questions. Even if it looks like it's irritating me or I know the answer, because I do, I know most of the answers and I've been doing this for 20 years and all I do is the legal part. So, you know, sometimes I answer quick, but keep asking. You really should. I think it's a good thing. The debate we had about site distance, I think was useful today.
It doesn't come up that often, so I think it's a good dialogue.
Okay, March 12th. We have, did Mr. Upton get his variance? I didn't stay to the
Yeah.
vote.
Yes.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
yes, of course.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
up there in the corner of the town.
I was trying to remember which.
So he will be definitely on and Miller residents of Lakeview and the Wegmans tennis court.
With
Mark Bear,
Mark Bear.
all right. I love to hear Mark.
I know. I even told him I ran in.
He does do a good job presenting,
He's like,
very thorough.
I haven't been here in so long. I was like, we really have missed it.
How's the palate? Okay. Anybody else have anything? We're
Worried
good?
about what trees we're gonna, I haven't decided.
7:30. 7:25.
Make a motion to adjourn at,
3 years.
for my phone, 7:23 PM.
I will
Second.
second that.